Hello everybody, I'm LazyDude99. Welcome to another LazyDude99 video. This one's going to be a little different. I know lots of people have been asking, dude, where is your Age of Ultron review? Why haven't you given it a rating or anything? Why haven't you done anything with it? And for the most part, I'll try to go through this. For the most part, it was because the town that I'm in, the movie wasn't playing. And then we had a kind of a problem with let's just say the town. When I went away from the town and I actually saw it, I went home for a few days for celebrating my birthday. I took my computer down with me, and when I came back up, I forgot the stinking cord for it. So now my computer is dead, and I can't do any of my editing because that's where it's on. Now the bright side is I actually do have a new computer. But I'm going to be able to send this to you, and it's going to be without any editing. It's not going to be as good as my regular videos, because there's going to be warts and all right here. But that's okay, because it's either this or you'll wait till the end of the month and maybe get one. So let's just get on with it. Here's my review of Age of Ultron. This is a very interesting movie. When I walked out of it, my first thought was, huh. Because as a movie, this is gonna be a spoiler full review, so I'm not gonna dance around anything, because I'm sure everyone's seen it by now. So it was weird. Now you gotta ask the question, of course, after you've seen this: is this movie better than the first one? And the answer is yes. Yes. Do I enjoy it more than the first one? I don't know. Because, part of the novelty is gone from it, part of the novelty is just gone because you don't have that feeling, the same feeling when the Avengers first got together. However, since this is a sequel, we don't have to do this hi, I'm Captain America, hi, I'm Iron Man, hi, I'm the Hulk sort of thing. We just have to jump right into it. Although I will say, I think the movie suffered a little bit by having that humongous climactic battle sequence right off the bat. I was thinking, oh boy, we're just getting right at it. But then, it's like, you put the emotion up here, then it's just so low for a long time. I don't know. The pacing was a little off. The pacing is off in this movie because there's so much stuff thrown at you just over and over and over and over. You're like, whoa, let me just have time to react and to adjust to this stuff before you just throw more stuff. Oh no, let's pile on some more. Not to say that the movie doesn't take time to breathe. It's just that, for example, one of the things that I've actually found to be a big problem with some Marvel stuff and stuff in general is the villain's plot is like, for the most part, he's very vague. I mean, when he's working with, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, he's not actually saying what he is about to do. He's not saying, well, I want to destroy all humanity. And they're working with him, and they're just, fine with it. And then when they finally figure out that that's what he wants to do, they're shocked. I mean, I would have liked to have seen him, Okay, for Ultron as a villain, he's good. He's very good. The voice is perfect. He got this menacing thing. I was taken a little bit aback by the Dada moments. When he's like, humans live to make smaller humans. Children! That's the word I'm looking. I'm like, whoa, you just downloaded the entire history of, humanity into your brain. It shouldn't have taken you more than a millisecond to think of the word children. But is it... that's the thing with Ultron. He has a couple of those moments where I'm just like, okay, you're using Tony Stark's sense of humor? I'm not sure if I like that. I won't say I'm an expert on Marvel, but the only Ultron that I've ever really seen is in the Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes one. And I really liked how cold and calculating he was, that he had this way about him that he just straight up, whenever he did something, it was just like, holy shoot, and it was like so dark and cold. So this Ultron had a couple of funny moments, and it really took me back for a bit. Then I gotta I don't necessarily like that. Then I have to ask the question, is it bad? No, not really. I I mean, it's funny. It made me laugh. It's not the way I necessarily like Ultron, but that's a personal preference. It still works in the context of the movie. It's not like it's doing something that's totally disrespectful to the character. I mean, it's only a couple of moments, and throughout the rest of them, he's still the cold, calculating robot that I want him to be. So, is it bad? No. Do I really like those moments? I don't know. Not really. Yeah. And we also have different stuff going on. Like, how about the fact that we have this relationship with the Hulk and Black Widow that I've never really bought. I just... It wasn't bad. I just don't buy them as a couple, really, you know? It's like we're missing that very important part, that very important little detail that's just like, oh, that's why. That's the... It's just I don't necessarily buy it, and to buy that they're that far along in it, that they're that much in love with each other. I don't know. I don't really get it. Don't really buy it. It's interesting. Is it bad? No, not really. I mean, while I don't really buy it, it's not like they're saying dumb lines like, I love dogs, I've always loved dogs, and stuff like that. They're still... The lines that they're given, they still portray well. It's just I don't think these two characters are fit to work with each other. Like I don't see them that way. You know, I think that their chemistry, well, not anti-chemistry, that they don't work with each other, is not as good as, let's say, the ones that she had with Captain America. Even though they were just friends, I felt like they had more like romantic chemistry than Bruce Banner and the Black Widow did. But once again, as I said, is it bad? Not really. No. I wish that then we Iron Man is mainly the main focus of the thing, and he has one thing in there that I kind of think is maybe a little bad. Okay, first he's influenced by Scarlet Witch to build Ultron because he thinks, oh, you know what, the Avengers can't survive forever, there's going to be a Chitauri invasion, although I will say I'm a little bummed out that the breaking of Cap's shield thing that they teased us in the trailer was just a dream sequence that Tony has. That bummed me out big time, guys. Oh, gosh. But, you know, that sort of thing is teeing up for, the Infinity Wars, right? That scene is like, they all see kind of see, that's the thing with Scarlet Witch that always bugs me. Her powers are so vague that they can basically do anything. Now, he and Iron Man and Thor both saw things that are teeing up to happen later in the future. Captain America saw something that he wished had happened in the past. And Black Widow was shown something that did happen in her past. So I don't know, it's weird because I don't know what her powers is. Is it mind control? Because she gets the Hulk to Hulk out and do whatever she wants. So can she control people's minds? No, it's more like an influence. Okay, what is she influencing by doing this to Captain... Like, why doesn't... If they're, like, so gung-ho against the Avengers, why doesn't she do this thing to Captain America where he's, like, thinking that he's dancing with, Agent Peggy Carter, and then all of a sudden Quicksilver goes and... There you go. No Captain America, one Avenger down, boom. You know, he's in a fantasy world, he can't see it coming. You didn't see that coming? Anyway, I don't get why... I guess Ultron has this whole thing. It was like, no, killing them too easy, whatever. But I think he's really... I don't know. I think Ultron is the type of character, for me personally, that he wouldn't care. He just wants to kill him and get it over with. You know, he's not a showboater. That's, once again, one of the things, though, is it's not horrible. It's just not necessarily how I would have wanted it. Let's see. We see Hawkeye's given a lot more to do in this, which I think is a response to how he was nerfed in the first one, how he barely was able to do anything. He's given, we give him a backstory, which, for a second, I think we all thought for a second we thought, okay, we're giving him a backstory, he's gonna die. Here he is, lovely wife, children, yep, he has it all going on, bye-bye Hawkeye, you're dead. Which, I'll give Josh Whedon credit. He got me there. I thought, oh, great, here it comes. Hawkeye's dead. And then, you didn't see that coming? No, actually, I didn't. I really didn't. One of the things with Quicksilver is, though, it's almost like Joss Whedon was just watching X-Men Days of Future Past and was like, oh, great. They made Quicksilver so darn cool. Great. Now all my plans for him, great. What can I do with him now? He's never going to be as cool as that. Well, how about we just give him a little bit of a catchphrase and then kill him? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's my answer to everything. Kill it. Now, to be fair, the Quicksilver death, while surprising, it's obviously Joss Whedon's way of saying, Marvel, wake up. We need to actually have actual deaths that mean something. You know, we haven't had any. Loki died twice. Coulson died, then he gets his own TV show. You know, we have all these characters that die and then don't die. And so this is his way of saying, okay, we're actually going to have death in this. It's the same what he did with on Firefly when, Wash died. He wanted to make this, in order to make the stakes real, somebody had to die. Which is kind of, you know what? It's kind of interesting because you have Marvel that has all of this, sort of happy-go-lucky, joking while battle type of sense about them. That's how they do it. But there's in the end scene when the city's coming up out of the ground, they're gonna be meteor, and they're still kind of joking. I'm like, you do realize the entire Earth is at stake here, and for some reason, when it's a meteor coming down with a whole bunch of people on it, it seems a lot more serious to me than the Chitauri invasion. Like when they were joking around with the Chitauri invasion in the first film, I'm like, ah. But this one, I'm like, you do realize people are dying right now, right? And all of life could be dead right now, right? I don't know. That, to me, I don't know why it bugged me, but it kind of came off, and it kind of brought me back to the DC side, where, in Man of Steel, stuff is going on, but nobody's doing any quick jokes, or, oh, I always wanted to see Metropolis, didn't think it'd be like this, or something like that. I guess that's kind of the thing with Marvel. They don't want to be so serious, but if you're going to go to this point, having the characters treat it, having the thread is all made how big it is because of how the characters treat it. It's like, okay, I'm going to go off topic here, but it's like Doctor Who and the Daleks. Those Daleks, if you show them to anyone who's not a Whovian fan and said this is supposed to be the greatest threat in all of the galaxy, they'd laugh it off. They're like, what, a whisk and a plunger? That's what everyone says. But in Doctor Who, let's say in the season, the 10th Doctor, where the Daleks have stolen Earth, and they finally figure out who did it, and they turn on the intercom and they hear exterminate, and everyone just grabs the loved ones closer, and they're in shock and in terror. That you're like, holy shoot, it's the Daleks, and your butt clenches up and you just grab your chair. And it's all the way the characters react. If the characters react like they're dead or they're doomed, then yeah, oh boy, you're in trouble. But when let's say later seasons, in season 11, the Doctor kills a Dalek a second. It seems like not season 11, Doctor 11. It seems like they're just nothing to him. He walks into a room full of Daleks and it's whatever. And I'm just I don't know. The Daleks are losing their scary edge that they had. Anyway, enough about that. It's the same with, the Avengers, when they have this big thing and they're joking around, and I'm just I don't know. It would have been more, I think the threat would have felt bigger if they were acting more serious to some of this stuff. Anyway, enough about that tangent. The acting is good all around, though once again, Thor is very shafted. I mean, very shafted. I can't even remember a line he said. I guess that's the thing with Thor. But I don't know. I just he doesn't really get to do that much. The most scene that he's involved with is the scene that we see in the trailer, or one of the trailers, where everyone's going to try to pick up Thor's hammer. Vision kind of fulfills my fears of stuffing too much stuff in there. He's not bad. He's not bad. He's still boring Vision because I've never found Vision interesting. But he has some good lines. He has some really good moments. The moment where he passes Thor the hammer, that is a very good moment. Unfortunately, it was spoiled for me since I didn't see the movie right away, and I saw people commenting on Facebook, just quick glances, and boom, spoiled. But in any case, it's still a good scene, still a good moment. The way that Vision, deals with Ultron in the end, good moment, good lines. It's one of those things where, by the end battle, though, you're like, oh, yeah, Vision's there, forgot about him. Oh, yeah, and Scarlet Witch is there, and oh, wow, there's a lot of people fighting here, where it seems like the main protagonist of the story is Iron Man, and this is his stuff. And the scene where he decides that he wants to create Vision using Jarvis and everything, did anyone else feel like it's like, you haven't learned anything? It's like, no, really, I can do it this time. It really came across to me, not like I've learned something, I know what to do now. It really came across as, you're an addict who really, really, really doesn't, know how to give up. And, I was with Captain America on that, and that, like, sure, Iron Man turned out to be in the right, but the fact that he thought he was in the right the first time, he just happened to be in the right the second time. I'm just like, with Captain America, I'm like, no, don't let him do this stuff. He can't keep on playing God like this. And that, to me, was... But it was kind of interesting because both of them were on moral... Captain America didn't necessarily have the moral high ground because he was standing there with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, who had been trying to kill him this whole time. So he's standing there with two criminals, but human criminals, who decided they want to help out and do the right thing. Now, while Tony's standing there with an unknown robot that he says is going to be good, but we don't know, it's an unknown commodity. So neither one of them are necessarily in the right, but when they fought, that is like the first time in these Marvel movies where I'm like, finally, a time where both sides are really provoked and have no other choice. They feel like they have no other choice. You can the argument can be made in the first Avengers movie that the whole Thor and Captain America and Iron Man fight was totally forced. You know what? I still enjoy it, but I can see where people are coming from when they say it's forced. It doesn't fit. I can see where they're coming from, but this scene, every single one of it has been set up. We have Captain America, really upset that Tony built this thing, and he doesn't like that Tony's trying to play God all the time. We have that Tony is really trying to do good, but he's messing with some things that may be out of his control. And I hope that this is stuff that continues on into the Avengers. I'm not in the Avengers, it's Civil War. I hope that when Captain America and Iron Man go against each other head to head in Captain America Civil War, that this stuff is brought up more. That the whole thing, I love how, like, they don't just end the rivalry. Sure, they're friends now, but there's still that sort of butting heads between these two different ideologies. And it turns out that actually Captain America was wrong this time. And they can't trust Vision and everything. I will say that, there are some characters that seem to be thrown in there because they're going to be in other movies, like, Andy Serkis as Ulysses Claw. That's obviously going to be set up for a Black Panther movie. We got some other characters that aren't... Oh, shoot. Like, we have Thor. Thor goes away from the fight for a moment. I'm just like... And everyone's like, okay, see you later, Thor. And I'm like, no, what are you guys doing? I mean, Thor, really, he really needs to stay with you guys. He's your second biggest bruiser, and your first one is unstable and just destroyed a big part of a city. It's really interesting. We got kind of, like, in the final battle scene, we got that whole thing at the end where Hulk throws Ultron out the window, and he's like, nuts. Or I don't remember what he says, but... that's funny, but it's not as funny as the Loki gets beaten up by the Hulk thing, and then the Hulk leaves. I'm like, Hulk, you don't know that the battle's over. Why are you leaving? The Hulk that I'm thinking Hulk would just thrown him out the window, but then jumped out after him and beat him to pieces as he fell to the ground, sort of thing. Anyway, but as I said, there's more story elements going on in this movie. There's more, the fight scenes are just as good. Well, I wouldn't say just as good. I prefer the fight scenes in the first Avengers. Mostly because I don't know. Here's what I hope for the next Avengers film. Here's what I hope will happen. I hope we get different characters fighting their own style, I hope that we have scenes of Iron Man flying and shooting things and battling people in armored suits. But I also hope we have some one-on-one fist fights with Captain America. And the Black Widow, I hope we see different Avengers fighting different styles, and I would love that, because, for example, let's say, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, most of the fights are close-up fist fights, and not, I shouldn't say most, but there's a lot of, because that's the way Captain America fights. Iron Man is mostly him fighting in armored suits, and, that type of thing. Imagine if you combine those different fighting styles in one movie. You can have one person fighting something big and bombastic, and you can have another person fighting something maybe more smaller looking, and you combine those different fighting styles. That's what I kind of want to see. I don't necessarily think I got that. I think they were all fighting in the more bombastic style. Like when Captain America's fighting Ultron on the truck. I guess we got some of that, but I don't know. I'm just saying that I hope that's one of my hopes for the next Avenger. But since they're fighting Thanos, I doubt it. There was this kind of thing where, in order to get through a lot of it, there was a lot of explaining doing. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have to quickly explain their backstory. We have to quickly explain certain things. It's certain things, and I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that. See, this is what happens when you do something where you're not editing. You're like, I wish that since there's so much thrown at us, I wish there was more of a narrow focus. Like, let me say for this way: if I'm describing the Avengers movie to someone, I'm like, oh, this Norse god called Loki comes to Earth, steals this powerful item, and wants to take over the world. The Avengers have to come together, get over their differences to stop him. What if I'm explaining the plot to Age of Ultron? I'm like, well, you see, they're stopping Hydra, this guy that we saw in the end of Captain America, and then when they stop Hydra, then Tony gets influenced and he wants to build an armor around the world, and so then he's developing this artificial intelligence with Bruce Banner, and so while they're doing that, the artificial intelligence goes rogue, kills Jarvis, kind of, and then the artificial intelligence attacks the Avengers, even though he's obviously not ready. He disappears on the net, reappears back in the place where they were just out of, and, makes himself a robot body. Then he wants to go over to the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, and they want to get together, and then after that, they decide that they want to tear the Avengers apart from the inside out, but they need vibranium. So they go do that. There's a big fight with the Hulk in the Iron Man suit, and then after that, they have to go over, and then they just rest at Hawkeye's family's house. We find out the Hawkeye has a family, even though we thought, he said he didn't have a girlfriend, but he has a wife. And then we find out more about that. And then there's, a love relationship going on between, the Hulk and Black Widow. There's stuff like that going on. And then later in the film, we have, Tony, we have a big fight scene where they steal one of the armors away from Ultron, and Tony wants to put Jarvis in there, who turns out isn't really dead, which is kind of still going on Marvel's continuous streak by killing characters and not killing them off, even though he's artificial intelligence. He's still continuing that streak by Jarvis not actually dying. Anyway, so then Jarvis is put into the armor, and there's a big battle over it, and then Vision is made, and then they decide to go stop Ultron, who wants to make basically a giant meteor come and hit the Earth. And they stop him from doing that. S.H.I.E.L.D. comes up, which I thought they were disbanded, but I guess they're not anymore, and they come back up and save all the people. They explode the thing in the sky, and then, Tony Stark and a whole bunch of the Avengers leave. Captain America starts the new Avengers. There's no basic story. Like, you could say, I guess you could end up saying, you could say the basic story is Tony Stark makes a rogue robot, and they want to destroy him because he wants to destroy the world. That would basically be a gross misrepresentation, because you're missing out Scarlet Witch, you're missing out Quicksilver, you're missing out this whole thing where they are influenced by it. There's a whole bunch of stuff that you're missing out. But if you say the basic story of the Avengers, it's Loki comes, gets an army from space, wants to take over the world. The Avengers have to get over the differences and stop him. That is the story. I'm not really leaving anything out of the description of the story. But in that, you gotta ask the question then, does that mean that the Avengers is a better film? Well, no, because there is less stuff going on. Avengers 2 has themes. It has different... there is very little themes going on in the Avengers. A lot of it is just about a new team has to come together, has to learn to work with each other. That is, a lot of the basics that goes on with that story. But the themes in Avengers 2 is... there's about the mechanical, side. Can you look at the world coldly? Do you have to, once again, continue on this theme of, do you have to react to evil before it happens? There's a scene where, Iron Man says, "How would you stop it? How would you stop it?" And, Captain America says, "Together." And, Tony looks at him with, "You're so naive. You're so naive. To say, together, we can't even stop Ultron together. How are we going to stop another alien invasion?" That's the thing where it's just you have these different ideals going against each other, and you know what? It's kind of interesting. One minor little tiny itsy bitsy plot point that I want to say. Okay, so we have this one soldier, I don't even know what I was saying with that. We have this one part where Ultron needs to get his hands on this thing to turn it, to get the man-made meteor to drop. And I'm like, okay, he's a robot. Why can't he do it digitally? Is it possible that he could just say, okay, drop, and then go... Now, the thing that makes me is that really a complaint? Is that Vision cut him off from the internet. Now, does that mean, though, that he's cut off from everything digitally? I mean, my Xbox 360 controller is not connected to the internet, but I can still press the button and turn it on from here. That's not necessarily internet connected. So when Vision takes that and is like, "You blocked me out," does that mean everything? I don't know. That's why it's not necessarily a complaint, but you think that a robot who wants to destroy the world would be able to just think, okay, drop now, and go... That's what I'm thinking, but once again, I don't really know if it's a complaint, if Vision did something that made him not be able to do that, so he had to do it manually, and they stopped. Either way, it was a good fight scene. Okay, I think I've gone on in this film enough, so... It's a good film. It's a very good film. There's a lot of stuff going on in it. I won't fully know how I fully feel and enjoy it until I see it again. It's one of those films, though, where there's a lot of stuff going on. And that's not a bad thing. It's just crowded. This isn't Inception, where there's so much going on, and if you miss something, you might miss the whole film. That sort of thing. Because that film, while can be confusing, it gives you everything at a good enough pace that you'll still understand the gist of everything. It's just there's so much more into everything if you look deeper. With this, it's just there's a lot of stuff getting thrown at you, and I would like some more focus on certain elements. I would like more focus on Ultron's plan, what he figures his plan is, what he's lying to tell them, what he wants to do, how he really sees the world. I would have liked development on that. I don't know, I want to see what Ultron views humanity as, that sort of thing. I don't really get a whole lot of that, not enough, and I would have liked, I don't know, there's certain things that I personally would have liked to see, but I don't get, but aren't necessarily the worst. It's not it's horrible that I don't know exactly what Ultron is thinking of all times. It's not horrible. It's just that I would have personally liked to see more. The way they go at it is a different angle than I would have liked, but it's not a bad angle. It's like somebody who, when golfing, you would want to go a certain way, and he tries to, I don't know, forget the golfing thing. See, this is why editing is so important. I'd edit that out. But, it's like, you get somebody who takes here's a better man. You're going down this road, and then somebody takes a turn, and you're like, well, normally I would go this way. Well, is this other way any slower or any worse way? Not necessarily. It's just not the way I would normally take. Okay, well, whatever. Same with this movie. The road they take is not a road that is horrible. It's not a bad road at all. It's just not the road that I would normally take. So, I've gobbed on enough. Let's wrap this up. I guess I would give, personally, the way I feel about Avengers Age of Ultron, I would give it an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. I think that ties it with the original Avengers. I think because the fight scenes are incredible. The characters are still very good and all well acted. Some of them get the shaft, but that's the normal for a team movie. Maybe in the next movie, Thor will be given much more character stuff going on because... because Hawkeye was shafted in the first one, given much more to do in this one. Thor was kind of shafted in this one, maybe given much more to do in the next one. I don't know. Either way, I'm still excited. I still like the movie, still enjoyed it. There are certain things that are done in a way that I wouldn't have necessarily liked them done, but are still good in the end. So that's how I felt about Avengers Age of Ultron. You can stop asking, and I can hopefully get a cord for my computer so I can continue editing. Maybe I'll buy a new editing program for my new computer. Either way, thanks for watching, everybody. I'm LazyDude99, and if I don't like it, it's not worth it. Adios.